Yep.
Okay, hey everybody, it's July the 11th. We're down here working on our little cabin that Leo and I built last year. We managed to scavenge enough firewood last week that we think we're through with the firewood for this year, so that project is done. I may get a little bit more as the year goes on, but we're pretty much good on firewood. Our gardens are all planted and our chicken coop is built. We'll give you some updates over the summer, how those things go for us. But we're moving on today to probably our favorite, most exciting project is our little cabin build that we're doing. So Leo and I started this last year, framing it all in. Now today we're actually on to putting in the walls. So there's not a whole lot left to do down here. We're
The mosquitoes are so bad.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you as best I can how we built this. It started off with two living trees that were down here that were parallel with one another and were 12 feet apart. This is one of them here, and that's the other one over on the other side. You can see the root system is still intact down in here. So I started off by going up these trees, topping them at the top, and then coming down and taking all the bark off of them, okay? Hoping that they would dry and not rot on me. We then installed two beams up here at the top that run across, which are now supporting our loft. So that was the next thing. Once we had those beams running from tree to tree across there, we had a platform we could work on. And then we went up and we hoisted our main beam up. It's about 15 feet off the ground, the main beam that runs. Okay, so that set up our system for our post and beam basically to support this. Then what we did, I made this foundation down here. This is all made out of small stone. You can see the little stuff in here. And then I just took Quikrete afterwards and put it all over it to try to solidify everything in place. And it's fairly solid there now. This foundation and another one that mirrors it on the other side of the camp run 16 feet along here. And then we put our beam down. Our first beams came down on top of that, okay? So that was the start of it, was two trees, our roof beams, our foundation that keeps everything off the ground from rotting, and then our main beam on top of that the walls are going to rest on. Now out on the end over here, we have a beam that sits on top of the big beam here. There's a beam that runs the full length of the camp, and there's another one in behind that we'll show you on the outside. And then we were able to take all of our poles. We have, I think, in total 28 roof poles that run along here. This was all done by hand. We cut these down when they were nice straight fir or spruce trees. We debarked them. We carried them down here on our shoulder and measured them to length and then put them up against the roof beam. So now we had our roof beam running this way and we had all of our poles coming along this way up against our roof beam to form the frame of the A-frame. So watch your camera there, bud. You're wiggling a lot.
Because the mosquito.
Okay.
Go.
So yeah, so we did 28, I think it comes to roof beams that we brought down and we put on. Initially we wired them at the base and wired them at the top, and then we went along afterwards and spiked them in place when we were happy with where they were. On top of the beams, we then did strapping going across the whole width of the shelter. And then on top of that, we went with metal roofing. So that sealed the whole thing in. It's not insulated, so it's not going to be very warm in the winter time. What we're thinking of doing eventually is boarding in on this side. We'll board it in so that we have an air space between the cold air in the winter time that hits the metal and the wood here on the inside so that we can better heat this maybe for winter. All right, so this is the front of the cabin here. You can see again, here's our rock foundation. On top of our rock foundation was our first main beam that went across. Now my father had a very nice or good idea here to do our walls because I wasn't sure how to go and frame in the gable end. And he ended up making some L-shaped brackets that bracket on back here and then come out here. And that was just to level this off, and then we could start with that doing 2x4s up. And he also had the idea of coming in here and blocking it occasionally and doing a beam running all the way up here. And then we cut all of these beams just like you normally would for a wall, 16 inches apart to frame it all in. And then we went with more strapping, and then we're going with our board on top of that. So the framing's coming along really nice. Just to show you over here again, if you come over this way, Leo, we've got a beam that runs on either end, the length of the width of the camp, And on that rests these poles. The poles are then nailed into the beam up here above that's sitting on this. So this isn't really even necessary, but it's here anyways for the time being to support these. If it ever rots away, it won't matter because these are wired and nailed into this beam, and this beam's never going to rot. It's way off the ground. And then, like I say, we did our roof. If you want to back up here, you can show them a little bit better. We've got it all painted up there so that you can't see it from any kind of distance. So Leo's going to take you on a little tour around. He wanted to walk around and show the whole thing to you guys. So here again, just here too, I'll explain. We were concerned that the original tree in here may rot at some point in time. And so we ended up putting another post that sits on top of these beams on either end and runs up to the top. So now we have two main support beams that are supporting our roof beam up above. So we think that that should last a long time. If you look down in here, there's Leo's little hand. I just wanted to show you guys there too. That's Leo's little handprint from when we started building this. So here you go, buddy. You take your tour around and show the whole thing to everybody. Now here's the back side of our roof. We have our skirting coming down right over top of the logs, so that as the water comes down here, nothing in the wood structure actually gets hit by it. And then here's the back wall. And let me get around you there, bud.
Got a mosquito.
We've got a skirt down here to cover now the rock foundation and the main beam that's in behind this. And then the wall's going to go on here, and we're probably going to do a board and batten, I think it's called, where we're going to have another piece that goes over and seals.
Go.
Okay, so that's the start of our wall there. And then if you come this way, we added this here on, but it gives you an idea of how the roof would have looked before we went and framed it all in and put the metal roofing on. We just had these poles that would run up to the main beam. We've got to now put the last piece of metal on this end to cover out to here. And here you can see again we have skirting that comes right down and protects all of our wood structure until we come back around to the front. Now we also, if you want to come over here a little bit, you pointed up, we built a loft for the kids here. Eventually it'll sleep a few people up above. We did that mostly all with log as well, which is kind of neat. We just used plywood, I guess, for the flooring so that everything's level. And we have yet to design the whole interior, so we'll show you as that goes on. But what's coming up next are the walls, and once the walls are framed in, the door's going to go here, and then we'll get into the inside and we'll figure out what we're going to do there. So that's everything. I hope you guys like it. It's a cool little A-frame for our first shelter that we built over here. We're going to try to do some more of this stuff over the next few years. Okay, are we on?
Yep.
All right, Leo just stopped me here to remind me that I need to say like and subscribe. And also he said I should set a like goal. So for this one, we're hoping you guys like our little A-frame cabin enough to give us 30 likes for the 30 whole subscribers that we have right now. We'd appreciate that greatly. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Take care, and we'll keep you updated on all these different projects as the summer goes on. Ow! Horse